Today on COVID-19 local impact, outbreak precautions at the Peterborough Regional Health Centre. A Lindsay company hires more staff after a shift in production.
As of today, we've hired 14 people as of this morning.
And Peterborough Mayor Diane Therrien addresses new tent city concerns.
It is illegal to camp in city parks and county parks as well.
Hello and welcome to COVID-19 Local Impact. I'm Dan Malta from the Your TV Peterborough studios. We'll start you off today with a look at the COVID-19 stats from around the region. In Peterborough City and County, Hiawatha and Curve Lake First Nations, as of yesterday at 3:23 p.m., 51 confirmed positive cases, 757 confirmed negative, with 285 currently under investigation, 0 deaths and 14 resolved cases. In the city of Kawartha Lakes, as of today at 1:20 p.m., 93 confirmed cases with 5 hospitalizations, 32 confirmed deaths, and 1 confirmed outbreak. And in Northumberland County, also as of 1:20 p.m. today, 14 confirmed cases with 1 hospitalization. And an update from the Peterborough Regional Health Centre, 3 patient-facing staff members in an unspecified inpatient unit have contracted COVID-19 through community transmission. At this time, 27 members of the unit have been tested as the PRHC implements outbreak precautions and enhanced screening. None of those tested were positive. The first case was identified on Sunday and the other 2 within the next 48 hours. The 3 PRHC staff members who've tested positive are now self-isolating at home. Despite the city of Peterborough finding homes for 139 people in the first 3 months of 2020, some of the city's homeless are setting up tents illegally in parks. Peterborough Mayor Diane Therrien says the staff are aware of this and are trying to address the situation.
Well, there's several factors at play. I mean, the parks are closed right now. It is illegal to camp in city parks and county parks as well. So if we get a report about a camp, a tent erected, then our staff, like social services staff, will go and try to connect with people if they're in the tents, and if not, they'll try to come back at a later date and or a later time in the day and connect with those folks and let them know that they're not allowed to be camping, and ask what kind of services that they need. And if there needs to be enforcement because people aren't abiding by the laws and the bylaws, then that is an avenue that we go down. But like similar to what we talked about the enforcement of the 5-person and the physical distancing rule, you always try to start with that education piece first, but the enforcement piece is sort of the backup plan that we're using. So that's there have been tents that have been removed, and that will continue to happen.
Ross Memorial Hospital in Lindsay has a new CEO. Kelly Isfan has been on the job for 4 days now after coming to Lindsay from Norfolk General in Simcoe County. Your TV's Mary Tendeshat talked with the new CEO, who said Ross Memorial Hospital currently has 5 patients with the coronavirus in their facility, but they are able to care for many more if necessary.
We've done over 1,600 assessments by phone and several hundred tests at the fairgrounds. And that's really important to help our community stay well. We have been getting people out of hospital wherever possible so that we're freeing up our bed capacity for the situation that will likely occur when people do need hospitalization. So we have 55 beds right now that are immediately available. We're planning in-house for another 48 as needed. And, worst case scenario, looking at off-site, a field hospital, if you will, where we would care for probably more patients as they're becoming more stable, or those patients that are waiting for long-term care, so that we could free up our hospital resources for the sickest people in our community.
Where would that off-site location be?
We're still working on that right now, but plans are in the works. We're very carefully stewarding our personal protective equipment, which people, it's PPE, that's what people hear. So masks, surgical masks, N95 masks, gloves, gowns, very careful with those supplies. We are right now in good shape for that. If people want to donate to the Ross, unopened packages of any of those items, we would certainly welcome that. So one thing I'd like the community to know is there's on our website instructions. So if you have family in hospital, we are tooling up to do virtual visits so that you can use technology to visit with your loved one in hospital. So please access our website to see how to do that.
From Cogeco News in North Bay, a truck driver, Andy Barry, shares what it's like working in the trucking industry in the midst of the COVID-19 outbreak.
No hockey, no sports to talk about. You can't tell me your kid just did good in karate. You know what I mean? Like, friggin', there's nothing else to talk about. People aren't doing anything.
That's what's on Andy Barry's mind. A trucker for over 20 years, he's certainly seen the effects of COVID-19 while on the road.
It was a lot harder now that word's getting out. The communities and towns are pulling together and know that us truckers are in high demand and they are starting to help us out.
Barry says he's starting to feel the effects of being on the road.
I honestly would rather be home with my family right now, but I know it's a necessity to move on and we will get through this. No traffic at all. A couple big trucks we fly through, and especially down in the Toronto area, it's there's no traffic at all. Very strange. Yeah, normally it's bumper to bumper down there. Now you just seem to fly along. And actually the other day I passed a few different groups of people and they all gave me the old honk the horn, and seemed odd that it was a couple grown couples, but just makes it feel that we're needed and they're happy for us right now.
Barry's wife is a nurse who works in the intensive care unit at the North Bay Regional Health Centre. He worries about her health as well.
Yeah, well, her job seems a lot more scarier than mine, but we do a family walk every night and we keep our distance from our neighbors, but like I said, we'll get through this and hope for the best.
Many businesses are experiencing a slowdown or temporary shutdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But as Your TV's Mary Tendachat tells us, a Lindsay company has retooled itself to help meet the demand of a much-needed item.
Divine Laboratories, we're a contract manufacturing facility located in Lindsay, Ontario. We have a few key products we manufacture, one of them being nicotine harm reduction products, or e-liquids for e-cigarettes. We manufacture food flavorings, and we also have a small line for specialty window cleaner. So we had a lot of requests for hand sanitizer. So we quickly realized that we had all the right tooling that could be adjusted to deliver products for hand sanitizer. So that's kind of what our core business was. And I think in our future business we're going to be in hand sanitizer for a long time. The automation equipment we own is basically very flexible. We had it pretty much set up in about 3 to 4 hours.
Though retooling their line to produce sanitizer was relatively easy, one facet of their production was more of a challenge.
I think people have become very accustomed to getting their products from non-Canadian sources. We rely too much on other countries. And what became apparent was when a demand like this surges tenfold, let's say, or more, getting the empty bottles. So that became our biggest challenge of all of it for retooling, was getting the raw materials and being able to supply the products before we announced we're going to be delivering these for the frontline workers.
Mike says Divine Laboratories made the switch to exclusively producing hand sanitizer only 3 weeks ago.
The first week we probably produced somewhere in the range of about maybe 24,000 bottles. This week we're scheduled to do approximately 78,000 bottles.
Divine Laboratories started sending their sanitizer to doctors' offices and healthcare providers, and then the word rapidly got out.
When you fast forward to last week, our customer base was basically everything from large corporate banking We have a lot of retailers that are selling it in stores, Home Hardware, for example. Rona placed an order today. We have hospitals, walk-in clinics. I'm not sure the category for jails, but the jails are purchasing it. So our range of customer base has grown drastically and for the majority, frontline workers, either in retail, healthcare, or law enforcement. Police, a lot of police departments as well.
Globally, where would you say is the furthest request that that your company has received?
We've turned them all down. If it's the U.S. or international, we've turned it down. We're going to fight for Canada right now. For the majority, Ontario. We feel there's so much surge in demand in Ontario. There's other people doing this across the country. So we really are trying to keep it within our range of areas we can service very well. We do own a cube van. So for the larger orders, instead of putting it into a courier, we are delivering it by the cube van. So we can service that base very well. And our big concern is overcommitting and not delivering. These people are placing orders. We want to make sure we deliver. So we're not trying to make a multi-billion-dollar corporation overnight. We're just trying to basically, what we started to do was keep our people busy. As of today, we've hired 14 people as of this morning.
So the next time you reach for hand sanitizer, it may very well be from Divine Laboratories in Lindsay.
Staying in Lindsay, Mayor Andy Letham has an update for the constituents of Kawartha Lakes.
Going into Easter, I just wanted to send out another quick message. I recognize this is not going to be a typical Easter, and most of you will not be able to do the things you were looking forward to or had planned. But I hope you find ways to spend time with each other and your loved ones, whether it be over the phone or on FaceTime. I'd also like to encourage you to take some time this weekend to pause and reflect. Let's not lose sight of the continuing tragedy at Pinecrest Nursing Home and keep those who were impacted in our thoughts as they go through this holiday weekend as well. With the recent spike in positive cases in Ontario these past few days, it's important now, more than ever, to practice physical distancing. Our first responders and frontline healthcare staff will still be working around the clock this weekend because pandemic response does not take a holiday. They are out there every day working to keep our residents and our community safe, so please do your part and stay home for them. We really have accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. The community has come together in a big way, and we're starting to see signs of progress. We've still got a long way to go, but I know we're on the right track. And if we stay the course, I know absolutely we will get through this together. Thank you and enjoy your weekend.
As COVID-19 local impact continues, an update from Northumberland. Welcome back to COVID-19 Local Impact. I'm Dan Malta from the Your TV Peterborough studios. In the town of Cobourg, Mayor John Henderson says they're starting a new campaign to spell out the do's and don'ts for citizens while COVID-19 safety measures are in place.
Well, let me start with the can-do. We certainly, although the message is we prefer provincially for you to stay home as much as possible, we realize there are times you may wish to get outside. So in my case, I do take time to be respectful of social distancing and walk my dog. So it's good for my dog and it's certainly good for me. The other day, as an example, we put up new signage to emphasize what is social distancing, and we put up a huge bulletin board in Victoria Park. So in that case, I took a stroll by way of my vehicle, went out, was able to see that signage, read it, go to other locations. So I went on a slight road trip, not leaving Cobourg, but just to get me out of the house, basically. And if we know in much of the province, there is an Ontario fire burn prohibition. We do not have that for Northumberland or the town of Cobourg. So if you have ideal locations and follow our procedures, yes, you're able to have your fire pit in your yard. As long as you follow the rules, that can be done as well. So basically what we're saying, as you walk through trails and parks, the boardwalk, you're certainly able to do that. We're just asking you again to be respectful of the 2-meter distance. We are really encouraging for individuals not to be in groups any greater than 5. And we're encouraging seniors as much as possible not to sit on equipment if at all possible. We realize they may need a break, but we're really emphasizing try not to do that if it is possible. And you can do this as long as you keep moving through. And how that compares differently what you can't do, on the weekend, we had individuals who were playing a round of golf in Victoria Park. For that, that's considered a recreational activity, and by provincial mandate, that is not permitted. We had other people who brought down lawn chairs and had a picnic on the beach. Again, that is not permissible because you're being stationary and you're having a picnic when you're to be moving through the park systems. We have other people who are coming down to where I live near Peace Park and decide, well, they'll be fishing. However, that's a stationary activity and again, not acceptable. We've done a lot of education over the last few weeks, and we're now at the stage that if you fall into that category, I can assure you, you will be charged and fined accordingly. And they're not cheap fines. They start at $750. To date, we have fined 4 citizens of Coburg. We did 2 today, this morning. And so the message is, if you're not in compliance, then my message to you is you need and expect to be fined and charged accordingly. In other words, the message is we need to do this together. We need to abide by the regulations as set out by the Ontario Public Health. And this isn't for just some people. This is for all of us in the province of Ontario, including the town of Coburg.
Turning now to the municipality of Port Hope. The annual spring trout migration brings crowds to Corbett's Dam. Due to COVID-19, the tourist attraction is now closed. Mayor Bob Sanderson tells Your TV's Mark Rockburn they're not hoping for a repeat of what occurred last week.
As you probably know or maybe heard, we had people conglomerating, particularly around the fish ladder. Now, these aren't fishing people particularly, they're sometimes tourists. So we did have to go up there and create some enforcement requirements. There were several groups, there could have been, by estimates, 80 plus people, conglomerating, and they were basically trespassing because we've got it blocked off. It's kind of an unusual situation because here we normally want people to come to Port Hope. The fish, migration is an exciting thing, and it's an opportunity for education and what have you. So here, for the first time, I think we're telling people, we like them to stay away. So that's a bit of a challenge, and we understand, that people, are kind of maybe bored now, and they think that if they leave their area and come to another area, that it's going to be remote. But the rules are very clear. People cannot, conglomerate. They cannot get together, and I think the provincial government has done a good job of giving us the ability, to enforce that locally, and that's something we've also talked about with our MPP David Piccini.
Are you taking a zero tolerance with people that are visiting the fish lift, Bob?
Well, not a zero tolerance, because that would mean we're fining everybody who comes along. I think it's a kind of an educational perspective first. We gave out, I think, several tickets though for people who resisted it. And that's where we'd like to go. So we're patrolling heavily, trying to get people to move on quickly so they don't conglomerate, get together too much. We're also, some of these are organized tours, so we're certainly talking to the organizers, to say, listen, I'm sorry, but this is off limits. As I said, people were going past. We had tapes, across and very clearly demarked that this is not to be, an area for parking. It's not an area to visit. And it's unfortunate. So zero tolerance, I wouldn't say we're there. We certainly were with respect to fishing itself, illegal fishing. But it's hard to, I think, come down on people too hard. Educational is our number one. Enforcement, absolutely, if there's any resistance. And unfortunately, some people feel that the rules don't apply to them. But it's such a critical time. Everybody must realize that they can be the one who breaks the chain.
Sticking with fishing, Bob, and obviously there is fishing still allowed to the south of the rail tracks in downtown Port Hope. I know that the municipality is getting complaints. What have you been doing with that, with those complaints coming in of the fishermen still being there?
Well, both. It's not as bad there, quite frankly. I go by it fairly frequently to check on it. We have our police force patrolling also, and although the fishing is legal there, but I think we have to understand also some people come together. They come in a car, and yes, they might be fishing closer together than what we think. But as long as the groups aren't, lining the river like they normally do, the word seems to be out. I think the respect there is a little bit better, and it's kind of spread out more. So we're patrolling, we're enforcing, we're talking, and I think we have expanded ability to find people, as you know, if we need to. So we're not getting too much pushback from that perspective.
13 days ago, the Easter Seals Telethon would have been hosted right here in the Your TV studios. With the cancellation of the telethon and no signs of COVID-19 slowing down, the organization has made the decision to cancel Easter Seals Camp, but they're hoping to incorporate virtual camp activities.
Coralie, what is the status of the Easter Seals Camp this summer?
The board of directors for Easter Seals Ontario met this week and made the very difficult decision to cancel the camp programs that would happen this summer starting Canada Day weekend for both camps, for both Marywood and Wood Eden. So it's definitely some sad news to deliver to our families and most importantly our kids. But really it's the most responsible thing to do in terms of the timing. There's some employment commitments that we have to make and a lot of vendor commitments that we have to make sort of right now in terms of getting camp rolling. So they did have to make that very difficult decision to cancel the sessions for the summer. The families will be notified directly from our head office, just to sort of let them know how it's going to affect them. The most important thing here is the kids. We still want to be able to offer some form of escape to the kids. And I know it's not the same as getting together physically in person to go to camp, but we really do want to try to offer a virtual experience for them so the kids can at least see each other, sing camp songs together, maybe follow the same template and fun plans that they did in camp. And we're working really carefully to maybe be able to send out some products and some craft items so that the camp counselors can go on to a Zoom call like this and virtually interact with crafts and that sort of thing with the kids. So that's still being designed, but it's definitely something that it is important to us that we do our best to find an avenue where the kids can still communicate with the counselors and with each other the way that they would in a camp session. The first thing that we experienced firsthand and on a local level is the postponement of the Easter Seals Telethon in Peterborough. We made that decision sort of ahead of the curve, it felt like, because we met on the Wednesday before March break and we had a very long meeting about what we were going to be able to do to modify the telethon to make it safe for our guests. And we chose the headline that actually did hit the paper that Friday of Easter Seals Telethon makes decision to postpone. And it was a bold move and it felt bold at that time because we didn't want to do it. The fundraising is important to our families. Their need is ongoing despite of the COVID virus that's affecting all of us. But it felt like the right thing to do. And as soon as we made that decision, I felt a sense of relief. We pushed the Easter Seals Telethon. We pushed it to September 13th, and we'll have a great big strong fall campaign for telethon. So that's our plan locally, so we're excited about that. And then just sort of bit by bit, different events come creeping up on us, where the next one up for me was a golf tournament. Are the golf courses going to be open? Can we go to those sponsors now? Does it seem too soon to be asking people to commit for foursomes and take their deposits? And the golf courses helped us make that decision. No, they don't think that they're going to be open at that time. So we've postponed our summer events now into the fall. So what we're hoping for is one busy fall with event back to back with event and event. Mostly because we're still very much aware that we have over $1 million in requests for equipment sitting on our desk right now that we are determined to answer. We're dedicated to the families, and like I said, their need is still ongoing despite all of this.
That's it for our show today. No show tomorrow. We do hope you're able to enjoy the holiday weekend with your loved ones while practicing safe physical distancing. And one last note we'll leave you with: today is the 103rd anniversary of Vimy Ridge. Keep in mind the sacrifices made by Canadians on that day and use it for perspective as we go forward together. Here's a look at the Vimy Ridge Monument in France. The video from viewer Mark Pryor. For your TV, I'm Dan Malta.
This is the third time I've walked up to this monument, and get that same feeling every time. Just incredibly impressive, and it just honestly gives me this rush of patriotism, which is awesome.